What's up, guys, and welcome back to That Chick Angel TV. It's me, Angel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please click the subscribe button below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video. I hope you do. All right, today I wanted to do a video that I get questions on a lot of the time, and I actually promised a subscriber a little while ago that I would do a video on this, and that's how to breastfeed twins, or I guess tips and tricks on how to breastfeed twins. For some of you all, I would think most of you all know, but some of you all might not know. I successfully breastfed my now 19-month-old twins up until they were 18 months. I also have a 7-year-old who I also breastfed until he was 18 months. I breastfed all of my children exclusively until they were about 6 months before introducing any type of solids. None of my children were ever on formula. They didn't have any other type of milk until they were a year old, and they moved right to cow's milk. That's not to be like, look at me, but just to give you all a little background on why I'm doing this video. Because I'm not an expert, I'm not a lactation consultant, I don't have any certifications when it comes to lactation, but what I do have is experience, and there's not a lot of information, I feel, online or otherwise on some of the things you can do to be able to breastfeed multiple successfully, because it is difficult. It's different than breastfeeding one child. I can tell you that right now. It's not the same, but it is possible. So here are some of the things that I did to make breastfeeding my twins Kai and Sai, I guess, successful and a little bit easier for me. So the first thing, it sounds a little silly and shallow, but my first tip is apparel. Having the right apparel will really help make breastfeeding a lot smoother. And what I mean by that specifically are nursing tanks. Now, the reason why I am so like nursing tank, get it, I still have them. Like, even though I'm not nursing anymore, I still have them because I had so many. Is that if you're in public, nursing one child, like if you just have a singleton, that's what they call it if you only have one child, it's real easy to just like lift up your shirt and just pull your breast out at the bottom. When you're nursing 2 children, it's a lot harder to do that. And a lot of times you'll find that your shirt is all the way up here and your breasts are completely out. Now, hey, you might be fine with having all of your breasts out in public. I'm not that free of a spirit. I mean, sometimes my boobs would be out to nurse, but I don't like to, it was more so I didn't like my stomach showing at the bottom because it was still like really dark, and I wasn't comfortable. So with these, I was able to wear these and layer. I could put on like a button-up cardigan. I could put on like a little wrap, and when it was time to nurse, I would just open that up and unclip this. And if I felt like I needed more coverage, like if I was at church in the sanctuary where I just don't feel like it's appropriate to have your breast out, I could then put my my wrap on. You haven't had your baby shower, you're pregnant with twins, ask for as many of these as possible. And they have some really cute ones. This is really plain, so this is not like, oh, I'm about to go out and stunt, but they have some that are really, really cute at like Motherhood Maternity, and Macy's. I think Macy's carries Motherhood Maternity. They have some really cute tank tops that snap. And I mean tank tops, not just the nursing bras. Number 2, when you are at the hospital and you are trying to figure this whole thing out, especially if you've never had a child before, pay attention to what your baby's signs of hunger are. And typically most babies have similar signs, and so you can actually Google these ahead of time. Actually, my hospital room had them up, and I just didn't pay attention to them in enough time, which caused me a lot of just heartache, nipple ache, and just unnecessary anxiety. So the problem that I was having is that one of my twins was very small at birth. They were both full term. I went about 49 weeks and maybe, not 49, sorry, 39 weeks, and I maybe was a day short of being 40 weeks. One of my twins was 7 pounds 1 ounce. He actually, after like the second feeding, had his latch down. He would sometimes be a little too aggressive, so I would have to like take him off and reposition him. Where my smaller twin, who was only 4 pounds 11 ounces, even though he wasn't a preemie, he behaved like a preemie. So he would get tired really quickly. He didn't really want to stretch his mouth open wide for me to be able to get my nipple into his mouth. So I would sometimes wait until they would start to get like fussy to feed them. While the other baby, Kai, would latch on easily, Sai would be so upset I couldn't get him calmed down to get him onto my breast, and then he would fall asleep from crying. He would be so tired. Where there are certain signs, like them rubbing their face on something, that would have told me oh, he's hungry, and he would have been more willing to work with me so that I could get the latch proper, because his mouth was so small he would clamp down on the very tip of my nipple, and it was so painful. So once I realized, oh Angel, you're waiting too long, I was able to adjust me feeding him earlier in his hunger signs, and he was able to work with me more on getting latched on properly. Oh, which brings me to number 3. When you have twins, you want to work with the twin who has more difficulty latching on first. So when it would come to feeding time, because I chose to feed Tandem because it took away some of the time that I was breastfeeding. When you don't feed Tandem, that means at the same time. That means you are spending 20 minutes with one child and then you spend 20 minutes with the next child. So that's 40 minutes of breastfeeding, where if you get both children on at the same time, it's 20 minutes and then you're done. You have a break. Your breasts have a break. You have a break mentally. So with the smaller one, I would get him latched on first. And what I noticed about my smaller one, like I said, he acted like a preemie. I needed to almost be textbook on how I held him, how I positioned him. I do believe he preferred the cradle. I think he preferred the cradle. And I would get him on there. I would have his body pressed up against my body, and typically he would work with that. After getting him on properly, I would then put the other baby on, and typically he didn't need much help. He just needed to be put somewhere in the vicinity and he would work it out. Now the reason being is that I had more room to play with the one that was like having more difficulty to get him positioned right, and without having another baby in the way. Get your child that is having more difficult time latched on first, and then add the other baby. Now, while I had to have him textbook position, this other one I put on any type of way. And that's my other tip. Forget sometimes what the textbook says and get them positioned in any way you feel comfortable. So while most people think they can only do cradle football, sometimes I did cradle cradle, where the smaller one was up here and the bigger one, he was his head was up here but his body was in my lap. That worked. And sometimes, I mean, granted, there'd be times that the little one would try to kick the bigger one in the head, but it was okay. I would block it. Sometimes I would do, like I said, football. When I was in the bed asleep, I would put pillows, well, asleep, trying to sleep. At night, I would put pillows in my lap like this. I would be sitting up with pillows on my back, and then I would have a head right here and a head right here. So they were kind of football, but instead of my body being up to them, I brought their heads to my chest. I say go with whatever position makes you feel comfortable and gets your babies latched. And that position in particular allowed me to be able to kind of get some shut eye while they were nursing. Another tip is pillows. I had the Breast Friend feeding pillow, which they make for nursing twins. And now the only thing about that I wasn't like super duper elated about is that it's all the same level and my children weren't the same size, and sometimes I needed one child higher than the other. So for me, having multiple pillows, I was able to keep configuring things until I was comfortable. So I would have a pillow behind my back, I would have maybe 2 pillows on one side and only 1 pillow on the other. I was able to configure it to however we were nursing at that time. I didn't have to do it the same time each time, because sometimes one way will work one day and it won't work the next. So I a lot of times would do, because my hips are kind of flexible, I would do crisscross applesauce and have them like this, and this way they were closer to me, and it was simple, and then I could be hands-free. And that was really important because at the time I was finishing up graduate school for my second master's degree. So I would still be trying to type out emails and stuff like that, or send emails from my phone. So I was able to use the pillows to allow myself to be hands-free and not have to worry about just being stuck like this until they finish nursing. Another quick tip, because I know this video is going long, is as much as I am not like huge on pacifiers, use them if your nipples need a break. Unlike when you're breastfeeding one child, you typically get a little bit of a break for a longer period of time, because you can potentially just nurse them on one breast for one feeding, and then the next feeding you can switch them. But when you have twins, both breasts are at work every time you breastfeed. So in between some of my nursing periods, because sometimes I knew my child just wanted to nurse out of just pacifying themselves, I Gave him pacifier. I let him suck on my lip. I let him suck on my finger. Just anything to allow my nipples a chance to recover. This was mostly in the beginning when my nipples had to get used to being nursed on, especially with there being bad latches, aggressive latches, all of that. Granted, all of that goes away and then you don't really have to worry about it so much, but don't be ashamed of using some sort of nipple or something to allow your breast and your nipples to get a chance to recover. My last tip or trick for breastfeeding twins that I realized helped me, this more so has to do with my smaller child. Because he was so small, and obviously hospitals, they make you worry about your baby gaining weight. If they're not gaining weight, if they're not keeping their blood sugar up, it's all a big whoop-de-doo. And I really didn't want to introduce formula to my child. So when we got out of the hospital and we went to the pediatrician, they weren't liking how he was losing or gaining weight. And this was due, one, to the fact that my breast milk hadn't came in. And so when it did come in, we were still working on his latch because my breast milk came in like on day 3. So we're still working on getting his latch together. So he obviously wasn't eating the way I needed him to eat. So this is what I did to help supplement that. I would pump ever so little, a small amount, prior to putting the kids on to eat. So I would pump out about an ounce or an ounce and a half. So it was when my breasts were at their fullest. Just take a little bit out and I would put it in a tiny, tiny little bottle. It's kind of like the bottles that they use to give medicine in. And I made sure that it was easy for him to drink out of. So I would let him nurse first, both the babies, the nurse, as much as they could from the breast. And then I would give my smaller baby that ounce that I had pumped off of my boob. One, he didn't have to work so hard for it, so he wasn't burning the calories right off, because a lot of times when they're nursing, they're working really hard, so they're burning the calories. This gave him a very easy ounce for him to have. So I did that until he had put on the amount of weight that my pediatrician needed to see, and until he had like the energy to be able to nurse as efficiently as his little but bigger brother was able to do. Again, that's a little trick that you can use if you have a baby that's having some hard times gaining the weight. Just pump a little bit of breast milk off of you when your breasts are at their fullest. Not a whole lot. Then let them latch on. They'll still get all that hide milk that has all the good nutrients in it, and then give them that little bit of milk that you pumped off right after. I didn't even freeze it. I didn't refrigerate it. I literally gave it to him right after he came off the boob, just to really expand his stomach a little more. All right, you guys, let me know if there are any other videos you want me to make that are twin specific, mom specific, or hair and beauty specific. I hope you all are having a blessed day, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. All right. Bye. Okay. What's up, everybody? Sorry I did not vlog it all today. I was at work doing voiceover from 8 a.m. to